Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Get early access to all of our interviews, including the monthly Chichester chats with writer and comic book legend DG Chichester, new episodes of classic Capes and Lunatics shows, including The Quantum Zone, This, That, or the Third, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/CapesandLunatics. Hope to see you there.
Hello and welcome once again to the 400th episode of Superconnectivity. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozz, welcome to the Super Connectors. Yay! We have shirts.
Mm-hmm.
That's how cool we are. Purple and black. Mine is very tight because I am very fat. But Mozz, being my skinny rich friend, looks amazing in his. And these are not available in our merch store. I got these off of Fittig, F-I-T-G. They're from China, so, took forever to get here, but we got them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very proud to get them from my friends.
Yeah, they were delivered by that Chinese spy balloon.
Yeah, well, honestly, let me just talk about. I wasn't gonna, but yeah, since you mentioned the Japanese,
it does seem like an evil genius plot out of a Marvel comic book, doesn't it?
It is something that was intended. Is what I'm saying.
It's unexpected.
Yeah,
it's goofy. It's something like a '60s Marvel villain would have done.
Yeah, no, what it is, here's what I say. The problem with it is that it was an intentional jerk move by China. because they knew this thing was off course a week ago. They knew the timing of everything. They knew Blinken's supposed to go there. And then it's like, oh, what's this? And it's like, dude, like if you had told us like last week, we could have dealt with it.
Right.
But you intentionally made it just before, because even if it is, let's just take China's word for it at face value, that just an atmospheric, balloon. And people send those up all the time.
Right.
It's normal. It's not an odd thing that they sent up this atmospheric balloon, got blown off course.
Now, that's what
it is.
Are they positing that they launched it in China and it flew all the way over here on the? Oh
no, that's actually very common. That's actually
So then
there's actually it's actually a trade route win
past the ocean and past other countries and whatnot. So they were spying on everybody.
Yeah. No, it's actually something. So here's actually the thing. I'm sure you know about the jet stream and things like that. That when you get up in certain atmospheres, there's these currents of air that just flow, like the mighty Mississippi, And if it gets caught up in something like that, it just gets moved over, and it's going to follow this path. And so it is not uncommon for a balloon to get caught up into one of these streams and get blown in this direction, and that is where it goes. Japan actually used those very things to actually send bombs to the U.S. during World War II.
Wow.
They had a few. They're not very good because you can't really control a balloon once it's up there. But they will, but a balloon will take you all the way from China to the U.S. to the middle of the U.S. without any difficulty.
My thought is, why aren't other countries?
The thing is,
the spy balloon was over our country. I'm sure it was spying on them too.
Well, yeah. Well, no, and Canada's actually very mad too. So everyone's mad about it. But the thing is that China could have given us the heads up, and it could have been a thing that we discussed as something that was happening. A Chinese weather balloon has blown off course, and this is what it's doing. But the fact that basically it gets revealed after it's already over us, and then suddenly everyone has to explain themselves, it becomes something that is intentionally meant to cause embarrassment to Blinken, and make it so that he arguably can't go to that. If he goes to the summit that we were supposed to have in China, now he's got to sort of explain why he's at the Chinese summit while China is doing this, and that's sort of what the outcome has been. Is he said, "Dude, you shouldn't have done this. You know better. Why are you making everybody's life hard?" And China's going, "Oh man, just a little weather balloon." But everyone knows it's more than a weather
this could
balloon.
all be a giant smoke screen. The aliens are landing, and they need a cover story. Oh, it was China, so that's also a possibility. This time it wasn't just a regular weather balloon; it was a Chinese weather balloon.
Yes. You know what? It's always a possibility that it is aliens, and it's always easier to blame a foreign party instead of the actual aliens, because
a really foreign party.
Aliens. Yes. Well, because aliens are scarier, because they're from far away, and we can't go there. And it's like, it's really, unless they're from Mars, unless there really are Martians or Venusians attacking us, if an alien shows up, I mean, we might be able to repel them, but we're never going to be able to take the fight to them. It's like we are not ready for that alien invasion.
If they wanted to get a fleet of ships to surround the planet, there's nothing we could do to stop them.
Exactly.
Maybe there is. Maybe we just don't know about it. Maybe Space Force has quietly been working hard in the background, and we've got defense systems. So, I don't know. I'd like to believe that might be true.
Yeah. There's always the possibility that, we have been further advanced in science than we know, but that the government's just keeping it all under wraps. All those Tesla inventions, those Tesla Stargates and whatnot.
With lasers on their heads.
Exactly. But yeah, so that's that. That's aliens. But for and actually, it's good that we should start with aliens, because this is the 400th episode of Superconnectivity, and Superconnectivity should always be strange and unexpected. And what I will say is, what we had intended to talk about is, of course, James Gunn's big announcement for the DC Extended Universe, and James Gunn's master plan to remake the DCU in his own image and likeness.
Now, many of the characters we were talking about, I had no idea who they were.
Mm-hmm.
These movies,
which is typical. Although, to be fair, and this is what I will say, is the idea here, that to be fair, that is what DC needs. DC needs to work with their back catalog, because everyone knows Aquaman, everyone knows Wonder Woman, everyone knows Superman, everyone knows Batman. So, and he is doing a Batman show. Aquaman is still on the thing. The only person that's not getting their own show is Wonder Woman, though they are doing Paradise Lost. They're doing a Game of Thrones Amazon style story about the origins of Themyscira.
So the politics and the intrigue in the rulers of Themyscira.
Yeah, exactly. And
that sounds fun.
Yeah, well, that's one of the shows, and it's sort of this question: is Gal going to be in it? But
I hope not. I hope that. I personally think they've messed up so much here. Just destroy the whole thing and rebuild again. Make no links to the past. Don't bring Momoa back as Aquaman. Just start over. If you're really going to start over, do it in earnest and give us something new. Don't carry any baggage from before. I'm fine with that.
And that is arguably what Flashpoint is, and that's sort of where. And he has expressly basically said, just we're rebooting everything with Flashpoint. And, a lot of people. So this is this is one of the things I really wanted to talk about here is Ezra Miller and his troubles.
Their troubles.
Sorry, you're correct. I apologize. Their troubles. Ezra Miller's troubles. Ezra's troubles, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say, can we honestly say that Robert Downey Jr.'s troubles at his worst are more problematic than Ezra Miller's troubles right now? So, here's the thing. I remember Robert Downey Jr. being found in the bedroom of a teenage boy. He was stoned out of his mind. He didn't know it was a teenage boy's bedroom, is the story we are given on that. And I'm more than happy to accept it. I see no reason not to accept the story as presented. But at the end of the day,
I don't think it's a good idea to write people off.
So we can start from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should have a road to redemption. And especially if the movie is really good. I mean, I get the sense this movie is going to be amazing, and that's the reason they're giving him such a long rope. And even if they are going to reboot everything, that they just need him to hold it together for a little while till this movie comes out. Then you can go crazy as much as you want. We won't need you. We will reboot everything, but just come on, man. Just hold whatever. Hold it together for a little bit, please.
I get the here's I'm gonna make this statement that I don't even know if it's gonna be that good. I don't know that it's going to actually be what they need it to be to cross the line of being good. They've been wrong before. I just think that they need to have. They want to have a firm reboot point.
Closure?
Yeah, and it's like, this gives us that firm reboot point, and we can deal with Ezra later. And like I said, if Ezra can come back, which maybe he can, maybe he can, maybe they can get the help they need, and maybe Ezra will, come out in 6 months' time and say, boy, cocaine is a heck of a drug, and I'm not going to do that anymore. From now on, I'm sticking to just good old-fashioned alcohol.
Right, there you go.
There we go. No, but that's the thing. It's like whatever they are going to be going through, whatever their story is going to be, they have to be willing to do the work and then have the work be meaningful. And that is where doubt comes in for other people, because especially anyone that's dealt with the addicted, dealt with the mentally ill, that, it can be hard to find that way forward. Robert Downey Jr. found it. Okay. And with Robert Downey Jr., he found it. He found a way forward, but only after a real long time, and a lot of chances and a lot of false starts. I guess one of the biggest problems for Ezra is that they haven't really had that first big relapse, because, you think about Robert Downey Jr., he had like at least 2 other comebacks before it stuck, including Ally McBeal, which was a big show, but a much smaller show. And it was supposed to be Robert Downey Jr.'s big comeback, and he effed that up. And he might have had 1 or 2 more F-ups before finally getting that opportunity to be Iron Man. And, the problem for Ezra is that they should have come at this later. They should have gone through their entire meteoric rise. My favorite oxymoron, because meteors never rise. Meteoric rise and meteoric fall, and then worked his way back up,
I think he's at that stage, like he's still young, right? And when you're that talented, at a certain point, you can get confused and think that talent owes you something. Whereas once you learn to realize that you owe the talent something, and that is a give and take relationship. And I think once you start believing in yourself and realizing, oh, I am that good, and you're not uncomfortable with that feeling, then you start being able to rely on that talent. But you got to give to it too.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Is you've got to be willing, as we said, to do the work, and that's what That's what they have to do. That's what they have to achieve. And if they don't achieve it, they're going to fail horribly.
Yeah.
And they're going to find themselves in a place they don't want to be. And then maybe they hit rock bottom and then they start rebuilding again.
I just want to see this movie, man, because to me, it just seems like the executives hate controversy. They hate anything that's going to bring bad attention on them. And they're sticking to this dude like glue or whatever. Oh, that's a gender neutral term, right? So, but yeah, it must be really, really good. There must be like, we have to get this out. We've created a real gem here. And they got so many stars and it pulled so many worlds together that it's just.
Yeah. Really, it could be great. And here's the thing. If they show up and they're doing the work, that's always the biggest issue. Like, again, to go back to Robert Downey Jr., the biggest problem for him wasn't that he couldn't do the work. It's that he wasn't showing up, that he was getting stoned and not showing up to work. And honestly, what I'm probably going to go out on a limb here and say, every time they give Ezra a call time, he's there bright and early, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, Yeah. And it's funny. I remember, years ago, when I was in the fast food industry, people would talk about, I don't mind hiring heroin addicts, because one thing about heroin addicts is they are always there on time. You have to know how to schedule them, but you give them a time. This is when you're here. This is when you work. And they come, they do the work, they go home, they get paid, and then they get heroin. And so I get the feeling that probably what it is that Ezra is probably a complete professional on set.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing, I've never heard any Ezra stories about him on set. It's always when they have downtime that they get into trouble. That right. One could make the argument if Ezra just had a 9-to-5 at Warner's, Ezra maybe Ezra needs a series,
Right.
It's like every
constantly
day, Ezra, you show up here, 9 a.m. You do this work, you go home, and that might help Ezra actually focus better. But like you say, maybe Ezra's biggest problem is you give them downtime. They're going to go off on a limb. They're going to go crazy. They're going to read the internet or something, and that never ends well. So, So there's hope for Ezra. Maybe Ezra's going to get the help, and maybe Ezra, and for what it's worth, Ezra seems to like to play in the role in the world.
And he's good at it. He was,
I know.
Some of the best parts of any movie that he was in the DC universe. Like the Justice League movie, he was like the best part of that movie.
Yeah, I can see that. And the fact of the matter is we know James Gunn likes him because James Gunn brought him back for Peacemaker. Did not have to. Did not have to do any of that stuff. And, it wasn't even like that was a mandate. It was just a thing. He decided that the two people he could work with were Ezra and Momoa. And both got to come back and both got to have little lines there and both got to play.
Now, I've heard rumors of Momoa playing Lobo. How real is that?
I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get with Lobo yet. And honestly, here's the thing about Momoa in general. Momoa is aging.
Yeah.
As we all do, and you can see it subtly around the edges, but and he's in better shape than me. Don't get me wrong, but as there's memes out there about why Jason Momoa should never shave his beard. That he's got a look and a rock star thing that he can play up, but there's this argument that he can only do that for so much longer as Aquaman, and so maybe, yes, you reboot him and then he will be Lobo or he'll be someone else, You can play with the characters as much as you want. You can do things with them. And of course, we've already got variants in the idea that there's a multi-universal situation here. And that is actually one of one of Gunn's big points in this is that there will be a multiverse, that there are Elseworlds. And it was very interesting because he mentioned 3 different prospects that are going to be Elseworlds. And that is Matt Reeves' Batman, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, and Teen Titans Go. Which I love that he mentioned Teen Titans Go, but to also suggest not only that Teen Titans Go is part of the DC Extended Universe as an Elseworld, but that it is in that same realm that things like Matt Reeves' Batman and Joaquin Phoenix's Joker are going to be a part of. That they are going to be that other universe just over where the laws of physics are different, where the history is a little different, and things have played out differently. And that's how we're going to get in the DCU the Brave and the Bold Batman, which is going to have the Damian Wayne Robin. And what's interesting for that, and people are like, oh, why are they going to do Damian Wayne Robin? Well, the interesting thing about Damian Wayne is that obviously he comes later in Batman's story, which means that there will be an effective Nightwing in this universe. There will be a Jason Todd. All the other Robins will have already come. He's just the newest Robin, and he is actually the son of Batman. And that film title, The Brave and the Bold, likely is going to play with the entire Bat family and will bring back in people like a Dick Grayson, like a Jason Todd. You're going to get these characters replayed and reimagined within it. And so I think that could be a good thing too. You know, he's doing his Superman reboot. And and this is one of the things I do like about Gunn's approach to this, is Gunn is trying to be super, super transparent about what he wants to do, you know, which is not typical in this universe, but he has made this point just so, because he put the question, should Superman have trunks on the outside or not? And, of course, at the same time that Gunn put out the Twitter tweet, he said, also, just so you know, we're not going to make the decision based on a totally random, unscientific survey on Twitter, you know?
Right.
This is just for fun. And, you know, do you guys think we should have trunks? And I am proud to say trunks won. Because I do think I like the red shorts.
Yeah, otherwise it makes it look like he's wearing long johns, and it's just weird. The separation, it just design-wise, it looks better, I think.
I am inclined to agree. I also think that it makes sense that when you're wearing that kind of a cat suit, you need something to keep your junk in place.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that if you don't have that, basically you wind up getting a gap on the lower end. And granted, it's all CGI'd on, but still, you need it to be, you want some internal logic in its design. That's my opinion, you know? And, you know, it's open to interpretation, but I think that's the best way for it, is you have that external trunk, which is why those external trunks were originally designed onto a lot of superhero costumes, because if you're wearing a cat suit as a man, you need something to give that support, you know? You need a little support there, Mozz.
Yep.
Don't have support.
And it's another piece. It's like a fig leaf, right? It's just covering everything. Because when you're wearing something that tight, you know, bulges can be a little.
But you can still have a good bulge with the trunks. The real problem with it isn't the bulge; it's the lack of the bulge. Because now suddenly, you know, the fabric just stretches down. So you need to have that pulled up, cinched around your waist, you know. You need something to hold.
Yeah, just for a little bit of decency.
Yeah, and we need a little bit of decency, and we need that, you know, we need to, like I said, you need something that lifts as it separates, and that's important. But more to the point, and moving beyond that, you know, because I don't want to just talk about Superman's junk all day. I'm not Lois Lane. what I do want to talk about is, how a lot of what Gunn is doing in this first, because this is just, he calls it the first chapter, but he says it's not even the whole of the chapter, and it's called Gods and Monsters. And I do feel he's going to be leaning into that multiversal concept, because one of the things that he's going to have at the very end is going to be Swamp Thing. And he has said Swamp Thing, much in the same way that he described Shazam, is going to be very much its own thing. Because he said, Shazam was always off on its own side, which clearly wasn't true, but we're gonna retcon it to say it is. We're going to say, likewise, the Swamp Thing is going to be in its own thing. But the thing about Swamp Thing is, because he's bound to the green, I think we're going to get this idea of a network of the green. Not quite a mycelial network, but a root network of the green throughout time and space, and then across multiple dimensions. Which, we love you, Swamp Thing. Quit stealing from Man Thing. Because Man Thing's at the nexus of all realities. But I do get the feeling that's what they're going to sort of build into that, that, and that's the classic way you tell stories, and that it has been honestly the way they've dealt with the green in recent years, and how the mysticism of the green has worked. It has been this idea of this connection between things, and you could travel from one point in the green to another point in the green, and the green goes through all things and all that kind of stuff. And so I think they're going to lean into that mystical quality of it. I think that there's going to be this idea of a multiverse of the DCU, and we may get some crossover. We may get a League of Robins, as an example, with a Damian Wayne, with a Teen Titans Go Robin, in the sort of Spider-Ham role,
like a Ninja Turtle team of Robins.
Exactly, that you're going to get some kind of a thing, or that, the Spider-Verse thing, that you're going to get these characters coming in, they're going to be from all across the universe and all across the multiverse, and they're going to come in, and this is going to be their big adventure. But that may be for future lines, and we have to see what we get to. One thing I did want to talk about is because right now we're talking the movies, and the movies are great, and we love the movies, but really, a lot of what Gunn is pitching right now is their TV shows. And one of the biggest shows he's going to do, and that he has talked about, is Waller, where Viola Davis is coming back. Viola Davis is going to be working with the Peacemaker team. And I get the feeling that rather than Peacemaker 2, we're getting Waller. And it's going to be how Waller builds her team. Okay. And that brings me to who I am most excited to see, which is Kumail Nanjiani, who, of course, we know from Welcome to Chippendales and The Eternals, and many other projects. He has said that who he would like to be in the DC universe is Ambush Bug, who is a character like Deadpool, who is comically aware, can break the fourth wall, and this is what's interesting about Ambush Bug, breaking the fourth wall is actually his superpower.
Interesting.
Like, the fact that he knows he's a fictional character is central to his powers, to his moving into the space between panels.
He looks like a character out of The Tick.
Yes. Well, he predates The Tick. We'll make it clear here. Officially, his superpower is just teleportation. But the fact that he can look through things and see through things and knows, like, who writes things, and, and this is what's interesting. I believe the person who's going to be working on Waller, or because like the people that wrote the Doom Patrol, he's bringing them back for more work. The people that wrote Titans are coming back for more work. He is definitely building out this group. And I do think a character like Ambush Bug, who can see through dimensions, will be key to that, I do think that he is going to be the character who will know what's going on with everyone, will know, the truth of the DC universe as it extends to who he is. And honestly, here's the thing. I've been pitching Ambush Bug for so long. And I would love to see more of him. I would love to see what they do with him. I think, Camille would be perfect for the role. You don't think it when you say it, but as soon as I think about who he plays in a lot of characters and who he is as a character, I'm like, oh yeah, that would be perfect. He would be a guy who could play, I'm forgetting his name now. I want to say it's Erwin Schwab.
It seems like the role for a comedian.
Exactly. It is a comic role, but one that can do seriousness too, And, what's important about him is that unlike Deadpool, Ambush Bug is not an R-rated character in any stretch of the imagination. He's not particularly violent. He's more annoying to people than anything else. Especially because he knows how to frame a joke in a way that puts you on your back foot, like the fact that he and Superman sort of have the same origin, that the person who made the Ambush Bug suit, his planet was also going to be destroyed, and the only thing he could save was his wardrobe, which he sent off on a rocket ship. It's funny. It's funny when you read it, but it's just this idea that
so his powers come from his suit?
In fact, his suit is stuck. The zipper got stuck and he could never get it off. So.
Okay.
And originally, yes, because he had the little teleportation bugs in his antenna, and then he could just teleport. And basically, and his character just plays fast and loose with everything. And he does go into other alternate dimensions. He has done a lot of very interesting travels throughout his history, going into metafictional worlds and coming into, and the thing is that DC has these Elseworlds, has these layers of worlds upon itself, which is like its Golden Age, Earth 1, its Silver Age, Earth 2, things like, Earth X, which is the world where the Nazis won, and, these legacy characters that come back and that the universe has crises, they get destroyed, they get rebuilt. And a character like Ambush Bug is aware of all of that. And he knows what they've gone through, and they know what continuity is and retcons are. And, the secret door to get out of hell, which is a whole thing from Son of Ambush Bug. When he's fighting the Interferer, which is, again, my favorite DC villain, because he is like the Beyonder, or Mr. Mxyzptlk, but he's trying to fix things. So he's trying to interfere with the way the worlds are set up, which I think is probably meant to be a joke on editorial. And he was trying to fix DC, and this was back in the 80s, and, which I imagine was a
character
thing.
Right now.
What?
He's the perfect character right now. That's great.
He's just this omnipotent being who says, no, you can't have this. Let's get some cityscapes in here. Let's make it darker. Let's make it this. Let's make it that. Funny. And it's like, and the only one that could defeat him was Ambush Bug, because Ambush Bug was the one person who could say, that's not reality.
Right.
That's a retcon.
I can break the pages of all the measures of your control.
Yes. And you add to that the fact that he's also kind of cowardly in his own right. And, not really an aggressive superhero. It makes it, you get all these different great meta levels with a character like Ambush Bug.
Wow.
And I think that is the kind of thing that James Gunn would love to build out this back catalog of DC's heroes, while still having the heroes there. So Superman isn't going anywhere. Superman's going to be central in Superman's legacy, and likewise with Batman, they're going to be there. I'm a little annoyed that we're not going to get a blue and the gold kind of story with because he's also bringing back in again another show for cable is going to be Booster Gold.
No,
which of course, I'm sorry.
What is that?
Booster Gold is the guy from the future who stole just a bunch of future technology and then went back into the past to be a superhero. And, there's, again, much like Ambush Bug, nothing particularly special about him, aside from just being in pretty good shape because he was a football player. He's just a guy who has, flight rings and personal force fields and things like that. And a little all-knowing robot named Skeets who follows him around. But he went back in time just to be a superhero because he figured, that is exactly what I need to do. And then he has other stories that people have explored as well, where he goes back in time to fix things because there's, there's a temporal, there are these problems with time where time falls out of the way it's supposed to go. And, you have to go and fix it, probably because the Flash keeps on going back in time. And then it becomes the situation where Booster Gold is the greatest hero you've never heard of because in order to save the universe, he has to fix the universe, which means no one remembers what he did. So he saves the universe time and time again, but the universe he saves gets erased, and now the universe is better, but you don't remember it was Booster Gold. So that's another great thing that's coming. And I think, again, what you're looking at here is this idea of multiple levels of the past, multiple levels of the present, multiple levels of the future, and how these characters are all going to interact and build out for that greater.
Isn't that new Green Lantern show too?
Oh yeah, there's also a new Green Lantern show that I think is a little more, I don't want to say run of the mill.
Interesting.
But it is a pretty standard kind of it's a superhero cop show.
Yeah, I'm here for that.
Yeah, and it's going to be, a true detective. You got Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan, I believe. Although I do wonder if we're going to get an evil Hal Jordan at the end of that. Because that's, I never forget Parallax. So, the idea that you're going to get at the end of it that Hal Jordan was the villain all the time, that's a possibility. I'm not going to, I don't want to spoil it because it doesn't even exist yet. But I'm going to call it right now. Hal Jordan is the villain all the time.
I'm here for that. That sounds fun.
Yeah. And yeah, just a lot of stuff like that. Can we pause real quick?
For the James Gunn verse.
Mm-hmm. So am I. Can we pause real quick?
Yep.
Thank you. I just have. But yeah, I mean that is, I'm excited about the DC. I'm excited about the Gunniverse. The only real question that we have to deal with, unfortunately, is DC going to allow him to do it? And that is because he has put out this big, bold plan. And it's a lot of risk taking. It's a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy level risk taking of saying, let's take our craziest, funnest stories, put them forefront, and see what we can do. And there's a very real fear that DC is going to panic early, as they are known to.
Yeah.
And pull the plug on all of it. And that, I think, would be a shame. And that might be why he's focusing more on television as far as where he's building out his stories. Because he knows he can probably get one Superman and one Batman out of the deal. And I think one of his biggest problems is going to be that he has to finish up everything that's already done. Which might also be, we have, the final Shazam coming out. We've got Flashpoint coming out. We've got, and tying up these loose ends is important, So you've got, we have the last Shazam, the last Flashpoint. Then now we're going to have a Blue Beetle leading into the next Aquaman, which tells me that Blue Beetle and Aquaman are the first things he's really got to touch but that were already probably somewhat done, but he gets to sort of steer them. And then that's where everything's going to start to become the Gunniverse. But that means he's got to get through 4 films before he gets his first shot, which is going to be difficult for him because, people are going to say, well, we didn't like this and we didn't like that. We didn't like those. But it's not his Gunniverse yet. And by the time he gets to his Gunniverse, then the pressure's on, especially if these do not do well.
Right.
Like, if that Flashpoint does not solve the problem of Ezra Miller, like, if people are walking away from that and saying, why did we endure all of Ezra Miller for that? That is going to be problematic. And that's not Gunn's fault.
Yep.
It's just the way the story fell. And so we're hopeful for the Gunniverse. I think we can all agree to that. We're hopeful for the Gunniverse. He's got a great universe if he can keep it. If he can go for it. Yeah. But I think that if and I think focusing on the television, I think if he has a good hit with Waller. So that's what I'm going to say right there. That's going to be his big proving point to build the Waller story on HBO Max. I think if he can pull that off, if he can have another hit like Peacemaker, he is going to be able to continue on with what he wants to do. And if he can get himself to Booster Gold, I think that he will have established what the new DCU is going to be, and hopefully he gets to make his Superman film, because that is the one thing that is his baby on the whole chart. He wants to do a, Superman Legacy, which again might be a one in which Superman, they say he's going for a younger Superman. That doesn't necessarily mean that Superman is young, but that maybe it is, he is Kryptonian after all. Right. He probably ages a little bit differently than humans, and he's probably in much better shape. Jack LaLanne did not look anything like me. And I think he lived to be in his 90s, but he still looked great. And I think that's what you're going to be seeing with whatever they do with that. And it'll be interesting to see how they play it out and how they build the character into the story, because I think that is going to be, that's going to be his baby. And if he can really tell a good Superman story, that's going to be the proof in the pudding, because there's so many hard feelings about Superman stories over the last few years, and where you get that very divided group of people, because there are people that like a new and different Superman, and there are people that don't like a new and different Superman. And, threading the needle is hard, because there are ways to thread that needle. I think John Byrne did it fantastically in the 80s with his Man of Steel series, which was the first time they did that big reboot, I feel, where they just said, no, we're going all the way back to the beginning and we're going to retell this story as if it's year one.
You mean the Brandon Ruth version?
No, John Byrne. I'm talking about comic books.
Okay.
No, Brandon Routh was, that was more continuation, and that was good. I enjoyed it, but, I actually have liked pretty much all of the Superman films, although I will not say that I've ever really watched Man of Steel. So
that's one of my favorites.
People do like it, I think I would have a hard time with it, because I do think that, and I'll be honest with you, I don't like their John Kent. I think a John Kent that tries to dissuade Superman from being Superman, who is so fearful of things, is not a good John Kent. I like a John Kent that's more, look, you got this great power, and with that comes great responsibility. And you have to find a way to use that power for good, and you can't worry about whether or not, it causes problems, because you have the chance to solve things. What I've said is, I really hope we see Superman, fighting landlords and, taking away wife beaters, just go back to, you really want to do some old school Superman. That's old school Superman, where he said, you're gouging people's rent. How can you expect them to pay these this rent if you're not going to fix anything.
That seems more like Spider-Man's job. That's your local neighborhood superhero.
Well, but Superman used to be a local guy, you know? Back when all he could do was leap a tall building in a single bound. He was a little more a man of the people.
Right.
And see, that could be interesting just to see how his powers start to grow. Like, you can even have this nice little thing where he has these powers, but they start to grow and kind of like what they did with Smallville.
Yeah.
Where they're like, what are you talking about? It's like, I think was floating. It's like, people can't fly. What are you talking about? And just having him develop these powers and see these powers and just have them grow and start off like a friendly neighborhood blue blur. And,
that's a great idea. I would love to see
a couple of bad guys and then suddenly realize that he can do more and more and suddenly get a little shocked by how his powers are growing exponentially and that the threats are growing exponentially too. And maybe that's like the moment where you go, whoa, how involved do I need to be in this situation? Because I can beat up landlords all day, but at a certain point, I'm just a bully, So there's a lot you can do with it. So I'm excited to see what he does with Superman. I don't know if that's the tack he's going to take, but it might be cool. And Lilith will agree. Anytime you go back to Smallville, that's a good choice.
I agree.
Best interpretation of Superman yet. And, so we'll see what he does. But I hope he gets the chance to, and we'll see where it goes. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode, Mozz?
I think we got to it.
I think we got to a lot. And, I know a lot of you all have your opinions on both Chinese weather balloons and James Gunn. And if you'd like to tell us those opinions, why don't you write to us in that old-fashioned email way at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's Capes and Lunatics, all spelled out, one word, at gmail.com. And if you don't like to write and you don't like letters because they're unwieldy and you just want to say what's in your heart, call us and leave us a voice message at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. There's a button you can push on your cell phone that'll put the letters on the phone so you know how to do the 38 Capes thing, because I know that's not a default anymore. And likewise, you can go down to our show notes and click on the link for Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. That'll take us to the new Capes and Lunatics podcast family website, take you to our merch, take you to our
Patreon.
Patreon, that's the word, and the Cash App, that's the other word I was looking for. You can give us money, whichever kind of money you want to give us. Every little bit helps because we do this all on our own. And Mozz, if people just want to talk to you and say, when are you going to get your own show and get out of Chaz's shadow? How can they tell you how to do that?
You can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me that old-fashioned email way. The way our mothers and fathers once did it, superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitters. I live tweet things when I feel like it. At Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. And thank you, listeners. It has been 400 episodes of this crazy thing that started so long ago with the good old Southgate Media Group Network. Enough said. And I have been honored to have done this show for so long, and I'm looking forward to doing it for 400 more episodes. Good night.